Hello, everyone. Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Thursday. The weekend is very nearly here. I hope you're having a good one wherever you're watching or listening to this around the world. Thank you, as always, for joining me. Plenty to get stuck in to today. We're going to be talking about Myles Lewis-Skelly and a new contract. I reported that yesterday. Fantastic news for Arsenal, for Arteta, for Lewis-Skelly as well, for the Arsenal fan base. Really, really good news. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Benjamin Sesko. His agent has been speaking about his future this summer, what's going on at the moment, how he's handling things behind the scenes, some interesting stuff from him. So we'll look at that. We're going to look at Carlos Cuesta, who's moved to Parma. I'm not sure it's officially been announced yet, but he has officially announced his goodbye with a couple of Instagram messages actually yesterday, really nice ones to Arsenal and to Mikel Arteta in particular. So we're going to talk about that. Got some other questions and comments from you guys to get stuck into as well. So let's get started, shall we? And we'll start with Benjamin Sesko and his agent Elvis Bazanovic. Sorry, I'll get that out. Has been speaking to Fabrizio Romano, giving an exclusive interview, some exclusive quotes about what exactly is going on. I think these are really interesting, not just the quotes, but why Elvis has decided to go public at this time with these quotes. So first of all, we'll just talk about the quotes, shall we? I'll say this is what he had to say when he was asked about sort of rumours of the fact that maybe he's pushing Leipzig to lower their demands in terms of the price tag for Sesko. He says, "This is far from the truth. We respect RB Leipzig, and I'm 100% convinced RB Leipzig will also respect our decision for the next step when we decide to do it. Even if there may be or will be a strong desire of the player to move to a certain club, we will never force or blackmail RB Leipzig. I believe this is not the right way, because the way you actually exit from the club shows your values that you are bringing into a new club. I can understand in very big transfers there are a lot of different interests, but no matter what, I believe in football world we should show more respect. So that's why we do things in the right way, and we don't do them. It's very simple. Even maybe in the media it might look very complicated." When asked about the move and Sesko, he said, or a move for Sesko, he said his numbers at his age compared to some strikers with already great careers at his age are confirming my words. He will move from RB Leipzig only when we recognise a special club, a special project with a special coach. It could be next week or next year or 3 years. So interesting stuff from Elvis Bazanovic there on Sesko. I think I was talking to Sam Dean about this yesterday on WhatsApp. I was like, what's the angle here? Why has he decided to do this? And we were kind of debating what it is, because this is obviously a sort of calculated thing. You don't just come out as a agent in the middle of a summer when your player is, being touted left, right, and centre and constantly in the headlines. You make the choice to do this interview at this time. So there's clearly an angle to it, sort of thinking to it. It kind of feels like, I mean, he's obviously taking aim at Gyökeres and Gyökeres' people here. That's what it feels like. He was asked in other quotes, he was like, this isn't Sesko versus anyone else. Sesko is just about Sesko. So he was saying it's not a case of competing with Gyökeres for a move or anything like that. But when you look at the quotes and the way he says it, it clearly feels like this is a bit of a dig at what's going on with Sporting at the moment, and how Gyökeres and his representatives are sort of angling and pushing for a move, and how messy it's getting. And they're basically saying, look, we're doing the opposite. We're not doing any of that. We're respectful to RB Leipzig. Would never try and force our way into out of the club. So it just feels very much like a calculated thing from them. The way he says, look, I believe this is not the right way, because the way you actually exit a club shows your values you are bringing to the new club. So it's almost like look, Arsenal, we wouldn't do that. We wouldn't kick up a fuss. You wouldn't have to worry about us when we come in to the club. We'll always sort of act the right way, be respectful. It kind of feels like that to me, because I don't see why else you come out with these quotes in the middle of a summer transfer window when there's so much speculation about your player. It was an interesting one, I think, for me. So we'll see if anything sort of comes from it. Obviously, it's all rumbling on still in Portugal with Gyökeres and the fallout from that. Gyökeres apparently has shunned a meeting with Sporting to try and clear the air is continuing to be a very, very messy situation. But it just feels like this is Elvis kind of taking advantage to say, look what's happening over there. That's really messy. Do you really want to get involved in that? Look what we're doing over here. We're being very, very calm, very professional, and we're just acting in the right way, if you see what I mean. So let me know your thoughts now. Why do you think he's come out and done this at this point? I think it's really interesting. Okay, let's move on to Myles Lewis-Skelly. Fantastic news. Brilliant news. I reported it yesterday, exclusive, that Myles Lewis-Skelly has agreed a new Arsenal contract. That will be announced fairly soon, I imagine. I'm pretty sure, actually, that it'll be at some point next week, which is just fantastic news. There's been all the noise about Real Madrid and the speculation about a move, all that sort of stuff. Madrid keeping tabs on him, trying to get him on a free transfer, all that sort of stuff, which it's like, I'm sure they're interested in. Why wouldn't you be? He's a fantastic player. He's just bossed you over 180 minutes in the Champions League. And you're looking at that thinking, who is that kid? Oh, he's only got a year left in his deal. He could be available on a free transfer. Let's see if we can get a deal done for him. So I'm sure they were probably behind the scenes really pushing for it. But I never felt like Lewis-Skelly would go. It just wouldn't make any sense. I'm sure at some point, somewhere, and hopefully he stays forever. But at some point, if a club like Real Madrid come knocking, obviously you get tempted. Just look at what's happened with Trent Alexander-Arnold, but not at 18, not when he's just broken through into the first team, literally 6 months earlier. It just wouldn't make any sense professionally, just to make that move. So I was always confident he would sign a new contract, but the longer it goes on, the more you do begin to sort of question yourself a little bit. So it's just great to get this done early in the summer. It follows on from the Gabriel contract, and again, it's that sort of snowball effect that I was talking about with Gabriel. So we've done Gabriel, that's sorted. Got Lewis-Skelly done. Then it's on to Ethan Nwaneri, Bukayo Saka, William Saliba, those players. And when they see others putting pen to paper, it just makes it a little bit easier to follow suit. These players believe they can still achieve great things at Arsenal, so why shouldn't we? So it's really good news, and it's good reward for Myles Lewis-Skelly. When you look at the season he had last season, it was just unbelievable, an absolute revelation, forcing his way into the Arsenal team around the turn of the year. First choice left back, now forced his way into the England setup, scored in his England debut, became the youngest ever player to score in your England debut, basically first choice left back for your country now, all in the space of 6 months. It's a remarkable turnaround not turnaround, just a remarkable sort of, I'm trying to think of the right word there. Just the pace of which his career has suddenly progressed is just unbelievable. And so it's rich reward for him. He needed a new contract, no doubt about it. And he's got one. It's good for Andre Berta. It's another sort of notch on his bow, if you see what I mean. That he's got Gabriel done. He's now got Lewis-Skelly done. I think obviously Mikel Arteta was absolutely crucial to this. Berta would have come on, and he's, it's not a case of convincing an 18-year-old kid as a sporting director about the project. Really, this is, Mikel Arteta would have been doing most of this. The way he's handled him, the way he's handled his development, his relationship with the family, with the mum Marcia. He's got some really great people around him. Myles Lewis-Skelly. And that was fantastic to see. And that's obviously played a big part. And obviously he's got a big pay rise because that's exactly what he deserves. And it'll be what Ethan Nwaneri deserves as well when he gets his contract. And Tatar says, has got in touch, says, congratulations on your exclusive, Charles. Thank you very much. You said amazing news that Myles Lewis-Skelly is committing his future to Arsenal. I see that David Ornstein's tweet gave credit to Mikel has been instrumental in the deal. My question is about how important Andre Berta was to this renewal. He's had a great start when it comes to contract extensions. Saliba, Ethan, Saka next, hopefully. I suppose I just answered that before I even got to this question. But, Andre Berta, in terms of how important he would have been, he was important getting it over the line, obviously. But, when it comes to this sort of player at this age, who's got the relationship he has with the manager, who's brought him through and has, helped develop him, Arteta was absolutely crucial to this one. Of course he was. I don't look at this one as one being like a Berta masterclass. This would have been that for his work is just getting it over the line. But so much of when you making a young player commit like this, they want to be able to sort of believe in their pathway and what the coach has got planned for them and how much minutes they're going to play. So that's going to be crucial at this stage, rather than say a Gabriel one where I pay an awful lot more credit to Andre Berta for getting that deal done than for this one. Myles, as David pointed out, Mikel Arteta absolutely crucial in getting this one over the line. Okay, Carlos Cuesta now. He's over in Italy. There's videos of him at the team hotel. I believe he's signed his contract now at Parma, but I don't think he's been unveiled officially yet. But he has taken to social media to tweet, not to tweet, it was on Instagram actually, to pay his respects to Arsenal, Mikel Arteta, on his departure. He said, after 5 beautiful years, it's hard to put this into words, but I can only express how grateful I am for having lived my day-to-day with such special people and feel what it means to represent this football club with its incredible history and values. The only thing I've ever tried to do was give everything I had inside me every single day. I was inspired by the culture that was created, by the hunger of every person in the organisation, and by the unity that we had in any situation that we had to face. It's been a privilege to have had the chance to work with the players, staff, directors, and all the employees of the club, and at the same time to receive an extra push from the amazing fans in every match. Because of the quality of its people, I'm convinced that the best moments for this football club are still yet to come. Enjoy the journey, because it's a very exciting one. Thank you. So that was Carlos Cuesta's goodbye message to Arsenal, which is a obviously very nice touch. You see in the response to some of these messages, the messages he's put out, some of the Arsenal players who have responded to him. As I said yesterday, hugely popular hugely popular coach at the club, and he is going to be missed. Absolutely no doubt about it. But it's not some massive disaster. Coaches come and go from coaching staff. That's the nature of the game. And it's all about replacing them well, freshening things up, and using it as an opportunity to freshen things up. And I think that's what Mikel and the club have to do now. He did also have a nice tribute to say to Mikel after that. He said, "And to the person that made it happen, thank you. That's the only thing I can say. Thank you for your trust, for giving me the opportunity to be next to you, and for showing me with constant facts, which is the meaning of the word courage. But more than that, thank you for being an incredible coach, an incredible leader, and even better human being. It's been a true privilege to learn from you, to feel your support in any circumstance, and to share the ups and downs of the journey, always seeing the positive side of it. You've taught me a lot, and I will carry it with me always from the bottom of my heart. Thank you." Really nice touch from Cuesta there. I think really, really respectful to Arsenal, to Mikel Arteta. It's given unbelievable opportunity by Arteta at such a young age. Came in at 25, I think, which is just incredible to a coaching staff at a club like Arsenal. So it was a huge opportunity. Arteta saw something very, very special in him and has helped develop it into a coach now that, someone in Serie A is looking at even at the age of just 29. So I thought it was really respectful, really nice touch from Carlos Cuesta to say thank you the way that he did. Simon got in touch just on that and said, "Is there any chance that Cuesta takes any other Arsenal backroom staff with him to Parma?" I don't think so. I'd be very surprised. Certainly not the core group. I mean, Arsenal, when you go down there and you watch open training, honestly, the amount of coaches is incredible. It is absolutely, there's like as many coaches almost as there are players. You just look around and count them. You're talking 15, 20 coaches, analysts, all that sort of stuff standing around the training pitches. So maybe there'd be something like someone from the sort of fringes that he might have a relationship with that he'd want to take. But in terms of the core coaching group, no, absolutely not. I don't see any way. I mean, what could he offer at Parma that would be a better opportunity than what they're already doing at Arsenal? He's not going to take, Stuyvenberg's not going to go from assistant manager at Arsenal to assistant manager at Parma. Inaki's not going to go from keeping coach at Arsenal to keeping coach at Parma. Molina as well. I mean, Molina's probably going to get even more of a sort of bump up now with Cuesta's departure. So I'd be very, very surprised if he does. It would be someone in the fringes of things, an analyst, some of those sort of people, but not members of the coaching staff themselves. Okay, a couple more questions and comments before we wrap this one up for today. Non-flying Iceman. This was a question for Inside Arsenal Extra Time, but I didn't get to read it out yesterday, so I included it on this one because it's interesting. It's about the speculation. Arsenal looking at the Sevilla midfielder Agoume. There was reports from Spain yesterday that Arsenal was sort of monitoring him. So there's no direct talks yet between clubs. I think they put a value on him at about 20 million. So what do I think on the speculation? I thought it was interesting. I mean, we were talking about it yesterday in terms of what sort of route Arsenal would go down if Thomas Partey does go. Do you replace him? I mean, obviously they've already replaced him. Zubimendi is going to be the replacement, but I'm talking about, do you replace his position in the squad if they can't come to an agreement with Thomas Partey? And at the moment, and I spoke about this yesterday on Inside Arsenal Extra Time, and if you didn't see it, the show's there. But at the moment, the reports that you've seen from Turkey, my understanding are not correct. So that those reports that were saying he is leaving Arsenal, I don't believe that's correct. It might end up being correct because, as far as I'm aware, still no decision has been taken. So they're still talking. But at the moment, he's in Ghana. He'll be coming back to London in the next few days. The plan at the moment, even if the contract isn't agreed by the time the squad fly out to Spain for the sort of pre-season training camp. The plan at the moment is Thomas Partey will be travelling to Spain with the squad for that camp, even if a new contract hasn't been agreed at that stage. So no decision has been taken on Thomas Partey yet. But if he were to go, if an agreement can't be reached, so what do Arsenal do in that stage? Do you go out and sign it, bring in another midfielder, because you've lost Partey and Jorginho in the same summer, and even though you've brought in Zubimendi, who will obviously be first choice, do you need to add to the squad, or do you just have, obviously Zubimendi's a first choice 6, but then you've got the option of Declan Rice playing there if needs be. You could play Myles Lewis-Skelly there if needs be. So there are options around, but is that enough? I don't think it is. I think you have to go and sign a midfielder, and it's just like, which midfielder do you sign? Do you sign an inexperienced guy, or do you go sort of down the younger route, someone you can mould and can, improve and develop and doesn't need that amount, huge amount of minutes to play? And Agoume is quite an interesting one. He's only 23 years old, playing at Sevilla, very impressive by all accounts. I mean, I haven't seen much of him, but I think that's probably the route that I would go down if there is going to be a replacement coming in for Thomas Partey to fill his place in the squad. I think that is the sort of midfielder that you would look at. Not hugely expensive in modern football terms, young, talented, can develop, doesn't have to play week in, week out, which, let's face it, he's not going to, because Zubimendi's going to play when he's fit. So I think it's an interesting one, non-Flying Iceman, in answer to your question, that I think that's the kind of profile of player that I would be going for when looking to replace Partey in the squad. So we'll see if anything sort of progresses with that. I mean, I think for Arsenal, ideally, they would just get a deal done that they could agree something with Thomas Partey for him at least to stay another year. I think that's why they're still talking to him about that. But if it proves impossible, if they can't come to an agreement over personal terms, then I think this is probably the best route, this sort of player, to go down. Okay, there's one from Nick. This is on the Inside Arsenal Patreon. He says, "Hi, Charles. There are reports of Liverpool trying to sign Isak. Is there any possibility at all? Do you think that Arsenal would try if he becomes available for 150 million? I don't know. They love Alexander Isak. Of course they do. We know that. It's an absolute open secret that Mikel Arteta would love to have Alexander Isak in his team. But 150 million pounds, I just don't see any way that Arsenal could entertain doing that in a summer where they're already spending 50 million on a midfielder. They want to sign a top quality left winger as well. I just don't see, even though you'd stagger that, obviously try and stagger that over a 5-6 year contract, I'd be very, very surprised if that's the price. I just, I still don't think he goes anywhere. I've seen the speculation about a bit of speculation about Liverpool, but I just don't think Newcastle will sell him. I really don't. Now they've got Champions League football. They don't need to. I don't think he's going to kick up a major fuss. He's got a big long-term contract. They seem absolutely adamant that he's staying, that they're not going to entertain any offers for him unless a mind-boggling bid came in. And I don't see Arsenal doing that, in answer to your question, Nick. So no, I would be very, very surprised. But thank you very much for your question, as always. And that's it from me today, everyone. Thank you very much for watching or for listening. Appreciate it, as always. I'll be back tomorrow to do it all over again. Until then, enjoy your Thursday. Enjoy the sunshine over here in the UK. Another absolute scorcher out there. And I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.